First one is career management strategy. How can a bid and proposal professional manage his or her career well? Is it about leadership skills, process skills, relationship skills that makes a bid or proposal manager successful? What are the growth paths available? And for this session, we have Mr. Singh, Managing Partner at Shipley. Of course, like I said, his resume will be up there. But in speaking to him, I found out some fun things about him. He is an avid traveler and loves biking. In 1984, he traveled on a bullet from Jamshedpur to Bhilai in just 2 days. So let's hear it from Mr. Singh.
It's 11 o'clock at night. You've missed family dinner. Children gone to bed. And it seems nobody else in the world cares about this proposal. And this proposal's got to get out next morning to a colleague in California who's got to submit it. And you think, life's got to have something better than this. And the only other person who seems to care about it is your colleague who's writing the exec summary. Because at the last minute, the salesperson has sent all the information. And then guess what happens? The power goes, and you're using your hotspot, your mobile phone as a hotspot, and there's problems. You didn't know the maintenance of this email servers are going to happen. And you think, do I use my Gmail account? Do I use Outlook? What do I do? I'm sure that's not happened to any of you here today, has it? Because winning is not about burning the midnight oil. Let's see if this thing works. Is this? Okay. And since we are in Mumbai, and it's so much of a Bollywood theme, I thought maybe we could perhaps reminisce a little bit and take a bit of a Bollywood theme. And already KK and many have said about the hero culture. Well, in India I was growing up, hero was a bicycle in the 70s. I don't know if you remember that, but my sister, when she passed metric, my dad bought her a lady cycle that I used to fight to ride with her. This wasn't the one, and my dad paid 275 rupees for that in 1974 or sometime like that. And then, if you had a bank job and you could wait 7 years, you could get a Vespa scooter, right? 7 years for a Vespa scooter. And then, if luck was good and life was good, you could wait and get this one. And sometimes that could take 14 years, Premier Padmini. I remember coming to Mumbai the first time. It was full with either Fiat or Premier Padmini. So waiting was a way of life for us, wasn't it? We were always waiting for something to happen that suddenly life would get better for all of us. And so in the meantime, what did we do while we were waiting? This profession didn't exist, or at least in this format. We went and watched movies like Dawn in the afternoon, or maybe Diwar, or maybe Kala Patthar. And those of you who came in the 90s, because I was reminded when I was preparing this presentation, not everyone grew up in the 70s. So if you grew up in the 90s, the three Khans were there, weren't they? And then, of course, forever, this last one, everyone's watched that, isn't it? My wife, who's Italian, says, why do you still find this as an interesting movie? And we all remember that line, isn't it? Kitne aadmi the wo? And instead of them being heroes there, they're working in a tech company, burning the midnight oil, writing proposals at 11:30 at night, and have given up shooting villains. If that's how we look at our profession, what hope do we have of career development? What can we do to have fun back in the profession? So I'll talk about skills. I'll also talk about capability and how the two of that, along with qualifications, can help us win. Now, KK had mentioned that many of you have come on by flight. Yeah, many of you came by flight. Imagine this morning there were one crew member short, and the baggage handler was said, go put a suit on and go in on that plane, the chances of having an emergency on this flight is very, very low. We've not had one in the last 1 year or 2 years. So put on a suit, go there and be one of the crew member. And if we found out, chances are we wouldn't want to be on that plane. So what happens when we look for people with mission critical skills? How much training has the person on the left had to take to become a fighter pilot? And is that role mission critical? Now, the gentleman from the submarine. Now, I was reading an interesting book called Turn the Ship Around, of how to move from hierarchy driven to the lowest point of taking responsibility. Now, how would we rate a mission where the success rate was only 35%? 65% of the aircrafts didn't come back. 65 of the personnel died in battle. We wouldn't call that a winning army, would we? So, what level of qualification do the fighter pilots have to take? The next one you see there, that picture there is of a radar operator. Now, interestingly, the person operating that radar is a salesperson. Okay? Ex-UK military, and he sells radar systems across the world. NDA prevents me to tell you which country that was in, and he went in for a live demo before the customer would buy their radar system. And they've gone from mechanical to digital radar, so they don't have to spin. And he was demoing how their radar system works. I had the privilege to train him on sales skills, but that's how I acquired this picture just in January when I was training him. So again, we see that there is core skills necessary when it comes to mission critical activity. See here on the left, we've seen this in many of the air shows. The left is where we talk about skills, and APMP talks about qualification. The right is for leaders here in the room, like Vani, Anand, Abhilasha, other leaders here. You are building capability because we are not helping you build capability through APMP. We're building the knowledge, but you then build your capability to fly in formation and to have your winning teams. So a little bit of background. In 14th of August 1989, the National Association of Proposal Managers was set up. And Steve Shipley, the founding CEO of Shipley, was one of the 3 members who set it up. Fast forward to 17th November, APMP was formed. And that's how the knowledge share started way back in 1989. Would anyone like to say when NASSCOM was set up? And you see the role they played. Now, we're not a NASSCOM, but the whole idea behind this is that the profession gets elevated and more information is shared. And this was the original vision when APMP was formed. And I'll let you all read this for yourself. But the whole idea here is to move from challenges to a profession which really is recognized in the industry. And this is how interesting it could be. There were 2 companies in the UK bidding for an IT contract. And one bid manager knew the other bid manager. And this person went and told their colleague, Kathy is the bid manager on the other side, we should pull out, because there is no way we're going to win against Kathy. So the reputation of the bid manager was already known in the industry at that stage. So 3 levels, if you know what to do, 75 questions can help you become APMP Foundation level qualified. That focuses much more on the what rather than the how. And it's not difficult. 1 hour, 75 questions, goes quickly. It's an open book exam. Second one is if you've got a little more knowledge on the how, I would encourage, if you've taken the foundation, to then become a practitioner. Now it's based on objective testing. It used to be based on submitting a paper. It's now based on objective testing. And the third one is if you've made an impact in your organization or the profession, look to become an APMP professional. Worldwide, there are only 175. India has 2. Where is my friend who's also an APMP professional? Will you stand up? Okay, when he's back. Okay, so India has 2 APMP professionals. So we're encouraging more and more folks to come and get these qualifications. Now, how does that help with the job role? If you want to kill your competition, don't hire their salespeople. Hire their bid managers, and you would kill the competition. When I was at EDS, and HP had just started to bring out HP services, they hired a headhunter, and 60% of our bid managers was just taken by HP. And then when the merger took place, they came back. Okay? But the lifeblood of an organization is this. And many organizations see bid and proposal professionals on a fast-track career because you interact with so many. You know the engine room, you know your cost model, you know your solution, you know your competition, you know the legal terms and conditions, you know the commercials, you know the partner ecosystem. What valuable insights you have on a fast-track career to becoming leaders. Let me give you some examples here. This lady, Jackie Ferguson, she was a bid manager. She became the MD of HP Services in the UK, a bid manager. So we see that there are examples in industry of people who've gone on a fast-track career. Some industries, when they take graduate intakes, the graduate intakes have got to spend 6 months as bid managers. One international organization has stopped using the term bid managers. They call them bid entrepreneurs. And that fits in well with the whole idea of a purpose, doesn't it? Bid entrepreneurs. And here's an example. Now, equally, in industry, things are also happening another way. This is Dr. Roy Verghese, a distant relative of mine. That's not why I'm showing you his picture. He's a cancer consultant in London. Now, he works for IBM, selling Watson to healthcare services. So it's also moving the other way. It's not just people in our profession who are going up the ladder and doing different things. People from other professions are coming in. He came and spent 2 hours with me whiteboarding to understand how pre-sales works, because that's where he is in the pre-sales organization, positioning the value proposition of Watson in healthcare. So our industry is becoming recognized, and hence we need to look at the qualifications that we can get. Teamwork is what leads us all there rather than a hero culture. If you think of any one of those 3 things, that also helps you to get qualified. About 18 months ago, I was interviewing some bid managers. And this gentleman, I wouldn't like to name him, it wouldn't be fair. I really liked him, really likable person. In his resume, he had put in fluent with Shipley methods. He could have at least done his homework, who was going to interview him. So I said, have you read the Shipley proposal guide? He said, yeah. I said, which training session did you go to? He said, no, I haven't been on the training. I've just bought the guide on Amazon. I said, okay, that's fine. So I said, what does the proposal guide say on proposal strategy? He said, oh, sorry, sir, I haven't got to S yet because your proposal guide runs from A to Z. I haven't got to S yet. I said, okay, fair enough. So tell me, what does the proposal guide say about action captions? We're an A. And I felt embarrassed asking him the question. So let's not fake it in our industry. One of the things we need to think about is be yourself. Everyone else is taken. So be yourself, develop your skills, and the opportunities out there are immense. These are just sideway moves or roles that people can move to. Excuse me a sec. The other thing also, since we're in Mumbai, is the difference between kalabaz and kalakar. You know, there's a role for kalabaz. We see that, 70s, 80s India, we saw a lot more of that. But seldom do kalabaz actually progress to become kalakar. Whereas a kalakar, we'll see, is a person can play multiple roles. So as a bid and proposal professional, we can play multiple roles. Hone your skills to become a kalakar and not a kalabaz. What I'd like to do now is to take a few questions before we close. I'm mindful, we're all speaking, so I'll take a few questions. Please. Brilliant. Well, unfortunately, the opportunity of becoming chairman isn't there. So we have to do all three. We haven't yet figured out where to award somebody a kind of an honorary number 3, but it is 1, 2, and 3. We all had to do it. But that's a fair question. Any other questions or thoughts? Yes, lady at the back. Just hold on, we'll get you a mic.
Other than being a bid manager.
Could you just start again, please?
Hi, I'm curious about all other roles you have performed other than being a bid manager or bid management professional.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Where would you like me to start?
From the start, a good place to start.
Well, I'll give you a potted history. When I was at college, life was tough. We were watching these movies. So the first thing I did there was I learned a formula how to make soap powder. And surf, remember surf? I and a few of us college kids, we made our own model of surf. And we were going out and selling it all the gullies and busties in small packets. So that's where I started. But when I arrived in the UK in '85, life was tough. Nobody wanted to give us Indians white-collar jobs. So one of the first things I had to do was learn to speak with a British accent. I had to work very hard. I used to listen to the radio. And my first job was in an aircraft catering place. So when you go on the plane and you get the tray, I went in there as a management trainee in an aircraft catering business. That's where my starting point was in Korea. But then in time, like a lot of you say, you stumbled into profession of bids and proposals. I actually stumbled into IT. I was in business development, and IT was just coming. I just got my new laptop in 1991, and I remember going back to the 70s when my dad forced me to learn shorthand and typing. I said, Dad, I'll never be a typist. He said, this will serve you in good stead. And then when the laptop came, I said, brilliant, I can type. And that's gradually how I stumbled into IT. And then I went and qualified as an SAP consultant. And for a number of years, I was doing SAP projects. And if you think about us burning the midnight oil in proposals, that's what made me change from the IT industry at that time, because I was in charge of data migration. And after you do 4 or 5 24-hour shifts through the clock, you think there's got to be a better way than this. And in those days, there was money in IT. So, and then of course, I've done other things, etc., before I got into this profession. But even today, my passion is writing proposals. I have a team right now working out in the Middle East because the customer's bid team is all gone AWOL. and that team is actually writing the proposal, and I'm reviewing it in the evenings in my hotel. Sorry, say again? Not quite 11, but yeah. One more question before we'll close. Okay, lady there. Okay, we've got 2 questions. We might as well take 3. Okay, we'll take it quickly.
Good morning, all. My name is Piyu. My question, and this is kind of a concern, do you feel that the bid management track has a deadlock? Because I have been in this for around 6-7 years, and I have met colleagues, and we have discussed that, you know, this track ends somewhere, and everyone who is in this field aspires to be in, either they have come here as an accident or they aspire to move out. So my question is, do you feel there is a deadlock in this career path?
So I'll answer that slightly differently. People don't leave organizations. People leave managers. So a lot of unlocking people's potential boils down to your immediate line manager. If your line manager is supportive, the world is your oyster inside your own organization. If your line manager is not supportive, I guess you look for a new manager. Okay? And that's, in a very simple form, that's what I would say, is that any development has got to be down to that manager. And, you know, when we saw that thing about the victim in that cage, I asked myself the question, how many managers, not employees, how many managers feel that they've got to be the brightest spark in the team? How many managers would be prepared to admit to their team, I want you folks to be brighter and smarter than I am so that my job is going to be easy? And the way managers can do that is actually develop each one to their potential. Hope that answers your question. There's one more. Yeah, Mike's coming.
First of all, thanks for the wonderful insights. So my question is, in some of the organization, sales drives the bid. In some other organization, solutioning drives the bid, like for example, consulting and solutioning organization. So from your perspective, how can you change the mind shift or the leadership from sales or solutioning driven to empowering the bid manager so that he can be actually the captain of the ship and not the only a facilitator?
Thank you. That's a difficult question to answer because there is so many aspects around it. Okay? My own experience is that firstly, does the bid manager themselves feel I can be empowered? And the starting point is, do we as bid managers feel we're in that cage? Or do we want to see, and the interesting thing is, the door to that cage is unlocked. We just don't know how to open it sometimes. So again, our managers will help us to unlock that, to look at the potential. The other thing which we haven't talked about is sales, because this is a bid and proposal conference. But really what has happened historically is we've been the poor cousins of sales. Yeah, there you go. Proposal and bid will sort it out. And 11 o'clock at night, you're still trying to figure out the exact summary. So what I would suggest is that the more you build your personal network and ecosystem, and I remember when I was at EDS, salespeople would call and say, we want Rob on this, or we want Sam on this, or we want this one. So build your reputation initially one bit at a time so that leaders will say, you know, I want that. One organization, again, NDA doesn't allow me to talk about them, name them, but the leader of the function has actually got 2 bid managers trained so well that they actually go on offshore assignments to actually help the sales team develop the bid strategy. That's how he has built his team. So there is hope there, but start with one thing at a time. One last question. Can we get the mic here?
So my question is, can you put some light on what are the growth paths available for a bid manager, and how do we transition into it?
Brilliant. I actually missed that from my slide, so I'm glad you brought that up. I've seen bid managers move to account management, where they've put in a proposal and thereafter they've positioned themselves to actually be the account manager and gone in onshore or offshore. I have seen bid managers become transition managers if they have a project management background. I've seen bid managers move to solution architects. I've seen proposal and bid managers move to sales. And then I've seen people becoming internal coaches. And they've migrated to larger sizes of deals till they actually help organizations with large deals within their organization. I showed you one example. Another example is somebody at Tata Comms. She got assigned to Frankfurt, and she's now a business manager in Frankfurt. Another gentleman who led a bid function in another telco, he actually moved from there, and he looks after all the contract management. So the point I'd share there is this helps you build an internal knowledge of so many things, and you can figure out and say which way you go. The challenge we have is that India, as sort of this function in India, has not matured yet to the point where we get all those career opportunities. So I'm not painting a rosy picture. I recognize that. Challenges is always with leaders and leadership and managers not allowing that. But it is coming. Look for those kind of ways. And what we're trying to do through this APMP forum is help each one build the confidence to develop their career. If further questions you want, I'll be happy to talk over the lunch break.
I'm a employee of Tata Communications only. So I do recognize, and we
you know the people I'm talking about.
So we do have a lot of opportunities out there, but then it's left to the person to find the path. I mean, we don't actually get the help from the management. That's what I feel is the real challenge.
But to be fair, I didn't know you were from Tata Comms, by the way. But isn't that the same in every profession? We think that the HR department's got some grand plan for all of us, and it's a master chessboard and everything's moving this way and that way. The reality is it's not. And majority of the times, I'll tell you about my own career, I've been lucky to be at the right place at the right time. There's been times I've been unlucky and been at the wrong place at the wrong time. So a lot of times it's there. But what we should do, when I decided to leave the IT industry, I said, which industry would I go and what was my adjacency? And while I was on the IT project, a rebid came. And the section that I had to work on, I talked to the bid manager and I said, look, that section, can I take ownership of the customer proposition? And that helped me. And it was a conscious decision I made to go into that profession. I didn't fall into it. So think of that. Over coffee, I'll give you a few other tips of how you put together a personal development plan and see how that'll help you.
Definitely.
Okay?
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. We don't have time for more questions. I've run out of time. But in conclusion, what I'd say is two takeaways. Individually, build your skills and get qualifications. And those of you who are leaders, use that to build the capability to fly in formation. Lastly, just to capture the spirit of Bollywood, I've got a 30-second or less video. Could you please play that? This is the bit I always get nervous. Will the technology work or won't it? From Hollywood to Hollywood, we are proud to be APMP. Could you just play that once more? From Hollywood to Hollywood, we are proud to be APMP. From Hollywood to Hollywood, we are proud to be APMP. Very good. From Hollywood to Hollywood, we are proud to be Thank you. So we, Shefali and I, were promoting Bollywood last year at the APMP UK conference. And so I thought I'd share this clip with you. It's been an honor to be here, and thank you so much for coming, and I look forward to it.